Hi, I'm Steven. This is Cory. This is JJ. We're from Just Got Played, and we're going to show you Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition from Stronghold Games.
This is Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. I'm not doing a full rules overview. I'm just going to tell you basically how the game is played, so you can get a sense of whether it's interesting or not to you. So in the game, you're trying to raise oxygen to the top level, temperature to the top level, and flip over all of these ocean tiles. And when you do, the game is over and you see who's scored the most points. So at the beginning of each round, you select one of these phase cards: development, construction, action, production, and research. And I'll go over what all of these mean, but you select one, everybody else does simultaneously. So say I selected development, and say the green player selected construction, and then the yellow player selected development. So what would happen is this turn, the only things that would happen would be the development and the construction phase, and 3, 4, and 5, the other phases wouldn't even happen. So why do you bother picking one of these? So one, you want to make sure that it actually happens. And two, for the phase that you actually selected, you get to do a bonus thing. So let me tell you what the 5 phases are real quick. So the first one is development. And that allows each player to construct a green card. And if you were the one to play this, you can pay 3 less for the card that you want to play. All right, so you're going to build a tableau of cards in front of you. So let's imagine these cards were in your hand. These are all green cards, so you can play these. You can see that some of them might have a requirement, right? This says the oxygen has to be red or higher, so I couldn't do that right now. This one says 2 ocean tiles have to have been flipped, and they would increase my production of heat and plants, but I can't even play those. Say windmills, I could play, right? And it doesn't have any requirements other than me paying the money, right? So it costs 10. I did select this for my phase, so it would cost 3 less, which is 7. You can see it's also this building type. I can reduce that by the fact that I have some steel production here. Since I have 2 steel production, each one of those is worth 2 towards building one of these. So that's actually 4. And then 5, 6, 7 with the other 3. I would only have to pay 3 to play this card. And this means it's a victory point at the end of the game. Another thing that I could do, so maybe I didn't want to pay that extra 3, I actually could discard a card, because cards are worth 3 money and you can discard them at any time to help pay for things. All right, so that's how the developments work. So next is construction. So construction allows you to play blue or red cards, and your bonus is you can draw a card, which is nice. You always want to be able to get extra cards into your hand, although there is a hand limit of 10. Or you could play a second card. So that's a nice ability to be able to get their cards in there. So let's look at some of the red and blue cards. So if you see here's a relatively inexpensive one, and this one has an action. So we'll talk about that later. Here's one that has an effect. So it's just telling you something, whenever something else happens in this game, you get this effect. It also has this space tag, which can be reduced. Like I was reducing buildings with steel, that one can be reduced by our titanium production. And again, we've got, so those were blue cards. Here's some red cards. There's a requirement on that. This one has an instant that when you play it, you flip an ocean tile. Okay, so that's the construction phase. So let's take a look at the action phase. So everybody can activate any action effects and standard actions, and you can do 1 action additional time if you chose this. So let's go back to this action. Right, it says reveal the top 3 cards of the deck, and if it has a science tag or a plant tag, you can put it in your hand and then discard the rest. You can take one of them. But you could do this twice, right? So you could do it once and then do it again if you had chosen this phase, and that was the action you wanted to do. It also mentions standard actions, which are all listed here at the bottom of your individual player board. So each player has a board. You can spend money to get a forest tile. If you get a forest tile, these are worth a point at the end of the game. They also raise the oxygen level, and raising the oxygen level actually gives you a point. Raising the oxygen level, raising the temperature, flipping an ocean tile, those each give you a terraforming rating, which is like a point. And basically, anytime you're pushing the game towards sort of the end state, you can pay money to raise the temperature. You can use plants to also get a forest tile. You can spend heat, which you might have, to raise the temperature. Interestingly enough, if you have the plants and heat and those parameters are not maxed out, you have to do this during the action phase. And lastly, you can pay to flip over an ocean tile as well. So that's the action phase. The production phase. Okay, so each player gains some things. Your bonus is 4 mega credits. That's the currency if you chose this. But otherwise, you gain heat, plants, draw cards, and get money, right? So if you look at this, I can just go down my player board. So currently, I'm producing, right? That's a 10 and a 0. So I'm making 10 money, plus I look at where I am on here, which is at 6. So I would get 16 money, right? So this is a 10. This is a 5. This is a 1, and I would just put it in my money area. There, now I have a bunch of money. This says I could draw a card, right? So I could just draw a card and stick it in my hand. And if I don't like that card, I can just use it as currency later. Here, I'm generating 2 heat, right? So I could just add some heat here. I'm generating 5 plants. So I could put 5 plants there. But there you go. I generated heat, plants, drew some cards, got some money. These don't produce. They only help you reduce the cost of those other cards that we talked about. So that's how production goes. And then last is research. All players draw 2 cards and keep 1. But if you chose this phase, you actually can draw 5 cards and keep 2. So there you go. Again, at the end of once all the phases are done for a round, if you have more than 10 cards, you have to sell some of them off. But basically, that's what you do. And then as soon as somebody has, raised up all of these parameters, flipped over all these ocean tiles, you can see you get some benefit, like drawing a card and getting a plant when you flip this tile. Once those are all up, the game ends immediately, which is interesting. You could be up at a state like this and just imagine all the ocean tiles were flipped. I'm not going to flip them all. And during the construction phase, like maybe all of these phases were supposed to happen. Maybe you were going to score a bunch of points in the action phase by doing some actions. But during the construction phase, somebody pushed the oxygen up and now everything was completed. You wouldn't even do these other phases. It ends immediately at the end of that phase. So that's an interesting thing. But yeah, that's basically how you play Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition.
All right, well, that's a quick overview of how to play Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. So, JJ, what did you like about the game?
Well, compared to like Race or Imminent Domain, Race for the Galaxy, it's a lot easier to play. I'm a big fan of Terraforming Mars, the basic game. Cleanup and kind of the tear down part of Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition is a lot simpler. That's one thing I definitely do like. That's my biggest thing. Otherwise, I'd play Terraforming Mars every time.
Yeah, I feel differently. I really like Terraforming Mars, and I really like Race for the Galaxy, but I kind of feel like I'm not sure I'm going to play those games. If I've got a new person who's, maybe never played Race, I don't want to have to explain Race to them, but I can explain this to them. Typically, when I play, I don't have 3 hours to play, but I can get this done in an hour and a half. So I'm probably going to pick this over Terraforming Mars. So I love Race for the Galaxy if somebody already knows how to play it. I love Terraforming Mars if I've got 3 hours to play it. But more often than not, I think this is what's going to fill that spot for me.
Yeah, I'm never playing Race for the Galaxy after Roll for the Galaxy. There's no way.
All right, Cory, what do you like about it?
What I like, this is coming from a player who's never played Terraforming Mars. I know, I'm bad. I've never played Roll for the Galaxy.
Race. You played Roll.
Yes, I played Roll. I have not played Race, right? So from what it sounds like, it sounds like I would like this one more because, like you said, a whole lot of time. But the thing I really liked about this game was the currency, the way you use the different cubes to show how much currency you have. I don't know. It's a weird thing, but I don't know. I just enjoyed moving the cubes around. That was fun.
Well, is there something that you didn't like about the game?
What I didn't like, I would like this from my collection to be much more of a family or friendly game within the cards, so that there's I was trying to read everything, and it taking the game so long. I was like, oh, it was driving me nuts. So I was dragging the game out because I couldn't remember what I had and had to go back and reread. So a little bit family friendlier for me, but and you said that all the cards in this were.
I don't think there's any duplicates.
No duplicates. So, there's no memorization. And there's 300 cards in this game? So,
my dislike sort of riffs off that. There's, 200 something cards. And in Race for the Galaxy, there's a mechanism to dig for cards you need, right? You can draw a whole lot of cards and just look. And there's the one I want, and you get to keep one.
Explore.
And, right? Yeah, the Explore. And you can level that up. Right? Your ability to explore. In this game, I didn't feel like if I was looking for one specific thing, like I need a cheap science card so I can get that tag out so I can play these other cards that require 3 science tags. Or, man, I've got a lot of these out. I know there's a card in there somewhere that scores points off these. How am I going to find it? There's no good way to dig for that.
Right.
And so I want to be able to do that. So I'd say that's probably my biggest dislike of the game.
So I know there's a mechanism in Terraforming Mars to do a drafting after you get your first initial set of cards. So you get the 4 cards and then you can draft. So you can kind of mitigate the randomness of it a little bit. It'd be nice if they incorporated something like this in there. And then Ark Nova just came out. It's a little bit. They stole a little bit from Terraforming Mars, but you're building a zoo or whatever. They actually have a buy market area, which kind of mitigates. There's a lot of cards in that one too. So if there's something as far as like drafting or market where you can kind of pick the cards you want, that would be nice, because I was the plant people and I didn't get any plant production cards until like halfway through the deck. So it was like, great. Yeah. And then somebody ran away with the oxygen. So I was like, I'm not getting points for my plants now. Yeah. So it's like, that's the only problem. But a lot of people complain about Terraforming Mars that way too. So.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I would say overall, though, I'm really happy with the game. Mm-hmm. And I would definitely play it again.
Yes.
I'd play it again. For sure.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm Steven. That's Cory. That's JJ. And this has been Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. Come join us on our Discord server if you want to talk about the game. The link is in the comments below, in the description of the video below. Subscribe. Let us know what you think in the comments here. If you want, give us a like. Helps us out. We would appreciate it. But until next time, thanks everybody.